Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Remy Price paced the floor in his tight Los Angeles apartment, his mind running faster than his footsteps, lit only by a solitary lamp. It had been 3 weeks since that hectic night when Luna Nozawa reappeared in his life, fleeing from the authorities after pretending to be dead, or so everyone thought. She had arrived at his door, unkempt, afraid, and extremely pregnant, begging him to hide her till the baby arrived. Remy had consented, against his better judgment and Deke's cautions. How could he turn her away? Luna had always been a complicated friend, someone he cared about in his own peculiar way, despite everything she had done. The apartment was small, a one-bedroom in an unassuming building far from the opulence of Forrester Creations or the Spencer estate. Remy had emptied out the spare closet and converted it into a temporary room for her. A mattress on the floor, piled high with blankets and pillows purchased in haste from a budget store. A small fan to circulate air and a mini-fridge filled with nutritious snacks, prenatal vitamins, and bottled water. He had even placed blackout curtains to keep prying eyes away. No one knew she was here, not Deke, Spencer, or the cops who were still searching the city for her following the near-fatal automobile accident that everyone assumed had killed her. Remy paused his pacing and looked through the door into the closet room. Luna slept curled up on the mattress, her palm resting protectively on her rounded abdomen. At 7 months pregnant, she was clearly showing, her once slim shape changed by the life growing inside her. She appeared fragile in her slumber, her dark hair scattered across the pillow, but Remy knew otherwise. Luna was a survivor, a manipulator when necessary, and this pregnancy was her ticket to everything she thought she deserved, a family with will and a position in the Spencer world. "Luna," he said quietly, softly shaking her shoulder. "You awake? I brought some food." Her eyes opened, and she sat up slowly, wincing as she adjusted her position. "Remy, yeah, I'm starving. The baby's been kicking all day." He brought her a tray with grilled chicken, fresh vegetables, and a smoothie he had made himself. Nutrition was critical, and he'd been avidly reading online since she came. Prenatal care without doctors was difficult, but he'd managed to slip in some at-home monitoring tools, a blood pressure cuff, and a fetal Doppler to listen for the heartbeat. It was perilous, because going to the hospital would result in discovery. "Thanks," she said softly, diving in. "You're a lifesaver, you know that? If it hadn't been for you picking me up that night after the car, I don't know what would have happened." Remy sat on the edge of the mattress, his expression a mix of worry and conflict. He couldn't stop thinking about that night. He'd been driving, unable to shake the anxiety that Luna was on the run again. Spotting her in the road and almost hitting her. No, he didn't hit her. He swerved just in time and pulled over. She was slightly injured from the fall, but she survived. He'd loaded her into the car, set up a hasty scene to make it appear like a hit-and-run fatality for any witnesses, and driven her here. The cops purchased it. The search had concluded. "You scared the hell out of me," he said. "But we're in this now. Just a couple more months, right? Then the baby comes, and you can figure out the rest." Luna nodded, but her eyes shone with that familiar determination. "Will's the father, Remy. He has to accept it eventually. Once the baby's here, he'll see. We'll be a family." Remy groaned. He was aware of the truth, or rather, the complexity. Except for Luna, everyone thought the paternity was ambiguous. She said it was from the night she drugged Will and exploited him, but there were rumors and hypotheses. Some internet fans speculated wildly, but Remy understood his own secrets. He was gay and in a relationship with Deke, but his history with Luna? He had moments of confusion, even experimentation, before finally accepting himself. But he shoved the thought away. This infant was Will's responsibility, not his. Deke was the actual issue now. Remy had been lying to him on a daily basis, making excuses for late nights, extra groceries, and his distracted attitude. Deke suspected something, perhaps not Luna precisely, but trouble. "Stay away from drama," Deke urged before beginning his new work at Forrester. Remy wanted to confess, but how? "Hey, Babe, I'm hiding a fugitive murderer who's pregnant with a Spencer heir in our closet. Days merged into weeks. Remy became Luna's everything, a caregiver, confidant, and midwife in training. He perused books about natural birth and watched videos late at night with headphones on. He rubbed her swollen feet when they ached and held her hair back during morning sickness episodes that lasted into the third trimester. They chatted for hours about her strange childhood with Poppy, her fixation with belonging, and her actions motivated by desperation. Luna gripped his hand during a particularly intense Braxton Hicks contraction one evening, while rain fell outside the window. Remy, promise me, if something goes wrong, you'll get the baby to Will. Tell him I loved him. Nothing's going wrong, he comforted her, despite his worry. We're doing this. But tension rose. Deke became concerned and confronted Remy about weird noises in the flat and unexpected expenses. Who's eating all of the food? And why are you locking the closet door now? Remy evaded, but cracks appeared. Meanwhile, the outer world continued to go forward. Will, sad and enraged, attempted to rebuild with Electra, but the ghosts of Luna tormented him. Bill and Katie planned custody, presuming Luna was dead and the baby was lost. Lee mourned her niece's death, while Poppy distanced herself. As Luna's due date approached, difficulties developed. Her blood pressure rose and edema worsened. Remy panicked and considered calling an ambulance anonymously, but Luna refused. No hospitals. They'll take the baby. He constantly timed her contractions, which began falsely and then ceased. They became real one night. Luna woke him up at 3 a.m., his water had broken, and he was in severe pain. It's time, she exclaimed. Remy rushed into action, changing the living room into a birthing room complete with towels, boiled water, and all of his studies. He guided her breathing and held her hand while she pushed through hours of labor. Luna fought with intense resolve, sweating and yelling. You're doing fantastic, Remy reassured, his voice firm despite his fear. No physicians, no pain relief, just him. After what seemed like a lifetime, a cry pierced the air. Remy held a little and adorable baby girl in his hands, wrapping her in a clean towel. Luna stretched out hesitantly, tears running down her cheeks. My daughter, our miracle. Remy placed the newborn skin to skin on her chest. The baby rooted immediately, latching on while Luna sobbed from excitement and tiredness. A new life began in that moment, concealed from the world. Fragile, secretive, with an unknown destiny. Remy watched them, his heart filling with surprising emotion. He'd done it, helped this child into the world safely. But now what? The shouts would ultimately attract attention. Deke was due home soon. The Spencers would never stop looking if they knew. Remy understood that hiding could not last forever. But, for the time being, he cared for both of them in his room, Luna healing and the baby nursing quietly. A chaotically formed temporary family. As daylight came, Remy said to the baby, Welcome to the world, little one. Whatever comes next, I'll protect you until I can't. Luna smiled faintly. Thank you, Remy. For everything. He nodded, but within he was tormented. This was only the beginning. The bold and the beautiful world outside waited, ready to erupt when the truth was revealed. Remy never intended to become anyone's secret keeper, let alone a guardian to a lady bearing a kid whose sheer presence could disrupt multiple lives. Yet here he was, sitting on the edge of his bed in the small room he rented above the garage, listening to Luna's breathing even as she slept. The room smelled softly of clean clothes and chamomile tea, and the late afternoon sun cast a warm line of light across the floor. It was quiet in a way that made every decision seem louder. When Luna first came at his door, she appeared to be about to fold in half if the wind blew hard enough. Her eyes were swollen from sobbing, and her hands trembled as she attempted to explain herself. She hadn't asked for aid openly. She'd simply stood there, plainly pregnant, terrified and alone. Remy had experienced terror before, but this was the type that resulted from understanding the world could be cruel and choosing to think it was. He'd stepped aside without thinking, allowing her in, and that single action had altered the course of his days. Initially, everything was improvised. He emptied up the small dresser to make room for her stuff. He brought in additional blankets in case the room got too cool at night. He packed the fridge with foods he thought could help: fruit, yogurt, soups. Only to find he had no idea what a pregnant lady needed. Luna attempted to soothe him, offering small smiles and stating she wasn't picky, but he could tell she was fatigued beyond words. The hardest part was staying hidden. Remy kept the curtains shut and the door secured, being careful when he entered and exited. He told the landlord that he was working unusual hours. He stopped inviting friends over. Every knock at the door caused his chest to clench. Luna rarely left the room, and when she did, it was late at night, dressed in a hoodie and his big jacket and moving silently like a shadow. Despite the stress, a rhythm began to develop. Remy started the morning by making tea, while Luna sat at the small desk by the window, writing in a notebook she never let him read. The afternoons were for leisure, while the evenings were for discourse. They discussed everything except the things that worried them the most. Movies playing quietly in the background. They occasionally chuckled, astonished by the sound, as if joy had slipped in without permission. Remy learnt the specifics of her discomforts: how her back ached if she stood for too long, how certain fragrances made her nauseated, and how the baby seemed to kick the most when she was stressed. Luna also picked up on his mannerisms, such as rubbing his thumb against his knuckle when he was nervous, staying up too late reading, and pretending to be calm even while worry lay heavy behind his eyelids. When the rain wouldn't stop and the walls looked too thin to keep the world out, Luna eventually told him the truth. Her voice shook as she spoke about blunders, people who wouldn't understand, and consequences she wasn't prepared for. She declined to name everyone involved, and Remy did not pursue her. What mattered was the baby's immediate desire to feel safe. "I don't want to be a burden," she explained, staring at her hands. "You're not," Remy said, firmer than he felt. "You're here because you should be. That's enough." As the weeks went by, her pregnancy became impossible to ignore. Her belly rounded, her motions slowed, and Remy's protectiveness became almost fierce. He studied articles late at night, studying about labor signs and symptoms and compiling lists that he never showed her. He found himself thinking in terms of we rather than me, which startled and grounded him. They, too, got into conflicts. Luna despised feeling trapped, being kept in the dark, and relying on others. Remy despised seeing her push herself, and he despised being unable to remedy things. She once told him that he didn't comprehend what it was like to carry a life inside her while hidden from the outside world. He had gone quiet, then apologized, saying that he didn't understand but was trying. The apology mattered. So did the trying. Small moments took on huge significance. Remy paused when he felt the baby kick under his palm for the first time, his eyes wide and his breath trapped between disbelief and wonder. Luna giggled through tears as she guided his hand and shared their secret miracle. At that point, the room felt less like a hiding place and more like a beginning. They prepared as best they could. Remy borrowed a bassinet from a coworker and carried it up in pieces to avoid questioning. Luna folded little clothing with care, each movement meticulous, as if the act itself represented a promise. They debated names in half-joking tones, never agreeing on anything, fearful that naming the future would make it too real. Fear never left entirely. Luna became apprehensive every time she received a call from an unknown number. Remy checked the locks whenever he heard an unexpected sound. But there was also optimism, weak but persistent, stitched into the fabric of their lives. Luna went into labor in the early hours of the morning, while the world outside remained dark and silent. She awoke Remy with a hand on his shoulder and a glance that said it all. Panic washed over him, but training from numerous articles kicked in. He helped her breathe, move, and concentrate. They couldn't go to the hospital yet without risking exposure. The decision they made months ago now stood in front of them, requiring fortitude. Remy phoned a discreet midwife he had researched, one who understood the importance of privacy. The wait seemed forever. Labor was long and exhausting. Luna shouted out, cursed, and discovered strength she didn't know she possessed. Remy remained by her side, bringing water, encouragement, and a steady presence. Even as his hands shook, he spoke reassuring words. When the baby arrived, the room filled with a sound that broke through all apprehension. A fresh cry, keen and lively. Luna sobbed with relief as the midwife placed the baby in her arms. Remy stood back, overwhelmed, tears flowing down his cheeks. At that point, the secrecy, sacrifice, and terror all vanished into the background. What remained was a small, warm human being breathing against Luna's chest. The future remained unknown and difficult, but it existed in a manner it hadn't previously. The days following were a haze of tiredness and tenderness. Luna recovered gradually, with her strength returning in increments. Remy learned how to hold the infant, warm bottles, and function with very little sleep. The space seemed smaller, fuller, and filled with gentle sounds. They talked about what happened next. They couldn't hide indefinitely. There would be conversations, consequences, and choices to make. But for the time being, they gave themselves a precarious tranquility. One evening, when the sun set and turned the walls gold, Luna looked at Remy with such heartfelt thanks that he was stunned. "I don't know how to thank you," she admitted. "You don't have to," he answered. "We will figure out together." He believed it. In spite of everything, he believed it. Remy never dreamed his calm life would become a secret that permeated every moment of his day. That was exactly what occurred the night Luna showed up at his door, rain-soaked, shivering, and visibly pregnant, with anxiety written so clearly on her face that he felt it like a hit to the chest. She did not knock at first. She only stood there when he opened the door, as if stepping inside would destroy the delicate courage that kept her upright. Her gaze flashed behind him, down the corridor and up the stairs, scanning for danger even before she spoke. "Remy, I don't have anyone else," she muttered. That is all it took. He stepped aside and let her in, the door closing softly behind her with a final click. In that instant, he crossed a line that he could never undo. The room was modest, with only enough room for his bed, a desk, and a thin dresser. It had always been enough for him, a place to sleep, contemplate, and hide from complications. But now, with Luna standing there, one hand braced against her large tummy, it felt abruptly insufficient for the weight of what she was carrying, both physically and metaphorically. She broke down almost instantly. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and her body curled inward as if to shield the infant from the outside world. Remy wasn't sure what to do at first. He was not adept with emotions. He was not excellent at dealing with crises. But instinct took control. He led her to the bed, handed her a glass of water, and sat next to her while she sobbed from weeks of terror and tiredness. Luna only told him enough to let him grasp the danger. People were searching for her. Questions were asked. The truth about the baby and who was involved could devastate lives if revealed at the wrong time. She needed to disappear, even if only temporarily. Somewhere safe. Remy listened with a clenched jaw and a thumping heart. He realized that saying no would have been the smart thing to do. He was aware that this may ruin him. But when he actually looked at her, he saw no controversy or disarray. He saw someone surrounded, someone who trusted him despite having no reason to. "You can stay," he murmured calmly, "as long as you need." From that night forward, secrecy ruled everything. He organized his life with military precision. His working hours varied. His phone remained on quiet. He stopped answering informal queries honestly, instead relying on ambiguous half-truths. The landlord was informed that he was working extra shifts. Friends were kept at arm's length. Nobody could know. Luna rarely left her room. When she did, it was late at night, with her hood down low and Remy hanging like a guard. During the day, she remained concealed, the blinds shut, the world reduced to a speck of light and sound. At first, the confinement bothered her. She paced. She snapped. She cried because she believed Remy wasn't paying attention. Pregnancy had been difficult for her physically. Her ankles ballooned. Her back ached constantly. Sleep came in erratic bursts. Remy noticed everything. He began making mental notes about which foods she could tolerate, which made her nauseated, and which music soothed the baby when the kicking became frenetic. He immediately realized Luna was powerful, but strength did not imply invincibility. Their relationship changed in ways neither of them expected. Initially, it was merely survival. He gave both refuge and nourishment. She sought to remain unseen. But long days led to extensive chats. Luna talked about her youth and how she used to have dreams that seemed impossible to come true now. Remy talked about his own failures, missed opportunities, and the quiet loneliness he'd never admitted to himself. The discussions occasionally became heated. "I hate this," Luna declared one afternoon after another sleepless night. "I hate concealing. I hate feeling as if I don't exist." "You exist," Remy replied, quickly regretting his tone. "You're just safe." "Safe isn't living," she murmured, tears in her eyes. The words remained with him. As the weeks progressed, the reality of the baby became clearer. Luna's belly grew rounder and heavier. Remy found himself watching her walk, prepared to catch her if she stumbled. He stocked the fridge with healthy foods and learned how to prepare a few basic meals. Late at night, after Luna had fallen asleep, he read everything he could about pregnancy and labor, his heart tightening with each article.